Well, despite revising down its own death toll for Gaza, a new UN inquiry is accusing Israel of crimes against humanity, including the extermination of civilians in Gaza. Well, Israel hit back, calling the charges repugnant. Earlier, I spoke to Hillel Neuer, the executive director of UN Watch, about that. I asked him about that and about his organisation's own investigation into the finances of the UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese. Here's what he had to say.
Look, there are two issues here. One are her expenses. Who is paying for her trips? The second is money that she seems to be requesting, invoices that her office is issuing in exchange for activities, which are not supposed to be paid, certainly not by an external actor. So first, we know that she went on a trip to Australia and New Zealand in November. The trip is estimated to have costed more than $20,000. It's very expensive to fly to Australia. She lives in Tunisia. So we estimated over $20,000. Her assistant, Sarah Troyan, also went with her. That might make the trip $25,000 or $30,000. We know that the Australian pro-Palestinian lobby groups, including Australian Friends of Palestine, AFOPA, AFOPA, they said we sponsored her trip. And they invited her to give their annual lecture. And she was then brought on various lobbying activities. These are groups that openly state, a series of pro-Palestinian lobby groups in Australia that explicitly state they do lobbying in Australia. And they brought Albanese to do lobbying for them and to give lectures. This has nothing to do with her mandate to investigate human rights in the Palestinian territories. UN experts visit the relevant country they're supposed to investigate. If they don't have access to that region, they go to a neighboring region to investigate witnesses. Flying all the way to Australia has nothing to do with her mandate. She said this group did not pay for it, and she said the UN paid for it, but the UN has never commented on it. So we simply asked the UN to make full disclosure, to produce receipts, to acknowledge what they paid for expensive business class flights to Australia and New Zealand, several internal flights, hotel expenses, all of that. So far, she's refusing to do it. The United Nations, I wrote to the Secretary General, Guterres, no answer yet from them. We're waiting for an answer from his office. That's expenses. Again, already we have conflicting information. A group says they sponsored it, then she quotes them saying they didn't sponsor it. Then she says the UN paid for it, but we went on the list of UN trips, the official list of UN human rights experts, all the trips that they made last year. Her trip was in November 2023, and there's no list of her trip. Her trip is not listed. So many contradictions, apparent misinformation. We're asking for full release of all expenses, number one. Number two, we're asking for her payments that she receives. There was the odd case where a parody account under the name of Rabbi Linda Goldstein, chief rabbi of Gaza, it's a satirical, supposedly progressive anti-Zionist rabbi. That account wrote to the real Albanese's office. Her assistant, Sarah Troyan, wrote back saying, we want to go to visit Columbia. Albanese wants to give a lecture to the Intifada group of students at Columbia. Tell us more about the honorarium. We're going to send you an invoice. So Albanese's office said in her name, Ms. Albanese requests that you send the money to our office. We're going to send you an invoice. And so this is against the UN rules. They're not supposed to take money for activities. And we asked for the past 2 years since she was appointed in April 2022, full disclosure of all invoices issued, money that she was taking indirectly, that she was not allowed to take directly. One of the things we exposed is the network run by Albanese to manipulate countries into funding UNRWA. It is a manipulation. The whole point is to support UNRWA's political agenda of dismantling Israel. Israel is accused, as you said, of extermination. That would be like saying when the Americans fought Hitler in World War II and the British, that they were guilty of extermination. No, the Nazis were exterminating Jews. They attacked the Allies, and the Allies fought a just war against Hitler. And that is exactly the case here. Hamas, genocidal Nazis, invaded Israel, mutilated, raped, tortured, took hostages. Israel's fighting a just war, is targeting the terrorists who have embedded themselves tragically, perfidiously, among civilians in a deliberate attempt to get civilians harmed. But Israel is fighting a just war. It has nothing to do with extermination. This is a just war. And did we expect this? Of course, because in July of 2021, when they named Navi Pillay to head this inquiry, they picked someone who a month before had blamed Israel for the May 2021 war with Hamas. She wrote a letter to Biden condemning Israel. She, 2 years prior, signed a letter, quote, entitled Sanction Israeli Apartheid. So they picked the head judge of the inquiry, someone who determined the verdict that Israel is guilty of conducting wars, guilty of being an apartheid state, way in advance. The whole thing is a kangaroo court.